Hello, and welcome to Shona Ray Studios Live. We're 14th episode today of Converse Subversives, our first episode since we took a summer break, which turned into an autumn break and then a Christmas break, one thing after another. But we've had a wonderful year. We had a solo exhibition in Okotoks in September. That was, I think it was very successful. I feel pretty good about it. And we had Atalanta almost finished for that exhibition, so she was on view, but I finished her up afterwards. So, and sometimes we do that, right? And sometimes we keep working on a piece of art as long as we want to. It's our process. And so I would like to say thank you to C-Space for being here and to CADA for giving us the funds to do this project. So in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, and all people, Indigenous and non, who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta land back. So that still feels so good to say that. And so let's get on with it. We're going to show you how we made Atalanta. And since she's already been in an exhibition, and many of you have seen her, here she is in all her ugly glory. Atalanta, if you remember, was a Greek hero who was female, definitely not interested in men, but of course was forced to marry at some point. And then, so that's the story of Atalanta and the three golden apples many people are familiar with. So let's show you what we've done, how we started with the bear skull. This is a bear skull here. Let's start with the first video, right from the drawing to the cutouts. There we go. And so I'm just showing you a kind of my process of how I get started on these things. Like, I can draw on those skulls forever. Like, I do a lot of it. I draw and draw and draw and erase with my bristle brushes. Sometimes I use an eraser, but the bristle brushes are really fast, and so that's what I use a lot. Here, I need to adjust this so I can see it a little better. Yeah. And so I draw, and here I'm just like, how much space do I actually have? So I drew this, and then I measured it, and then I made the apple, and then I did the cutouts. But see here now, this was probably a week or so later after we had done that apple. So I knew how far where I could make those cutouts. And again, first of all, I draw the shape, and then I get in there with a real sharp bit and cut it out. And this one, as you can see, I had to hammer it out as well because of the amazing bone membrane inside the skull. And as it turned out, it's throughout the whole skull. And of course, the bear is a very strong animal, so they need a strong skull. I don't know, in case they fall out of their head on a tree, I don't know. It's not like a goat, which also has a lot of membranes, and buffalo. And here I am cutting out the base because I'm going to have the legs coming inside of there. And also, once I cut out that base, I went, oh my God, it's a cool shape. See, now I can have the legs hanging inside. Here I'm just grinding out a lot of that membrane to make room for the inserts I will be putting inside there. And it's pretty, I left all the little grimblies at the bottom of the bench there so you could really see it. And it's very interesting, the inside of skulls. I continue to be extremely fascinated by them. The next video we have is the actual making of the bronze apples. I don't think I have a video of them being sawn, but you've seen us saw before and we'll saw again. And but I think we start out with the texturing of the apples, and Jennifer's helping me here with that. So here she is. What I did is I drew the apples and then I glued them onto a piece of metal, and Stephanie sawed them out one night on her work night. Jennifer's much more organized with her stamping tools than I am. And what we did was we had textured already some of the words, and then once the piece was finished, we textured more. And you'll see, like now she's really going in there and filling up that big apple, which is going to be at the foot of Atalanta. And so there's the middle apple. You can see we're going to be cutting out the center, and the top apple is going to be an eye. So we have the eye, the heart, and the toe, the three golden apples that are thrown to Atalanta. I'm making them nice and flat now so that when I solder the silver bits onto them, they will be, and really all I did, they will be easier to solder when they're flat. And the little silver bits that I'm using are just scraps of metal. I'll solder them on and then I'll cut out the details afterwards. So there we are, soldering the little bits. So we just solder the wire right through. You can see I'm doing the eye at the same time here at the very bottom of the screen. It's just a kind of you solder the back of it, get it to flow through, and pull that solder all the way. And then you'll see Jennifer in later cleaning those bits up and making them, you can't even see where the wire goes through when we're finished. So doing it again. The big trick here, of course, is getting enough heat without melting the wires. Pulling it through. So, and there we are. Jennifer's right now she's drilling the center of the chest and sawing it. And I just showed the very beginning of the saw and the very end, the last couple of strokes. But there you go. And then a little filing on the inside to clean it up. We're going to put a silver frame in, but it just didn't seem necessary. So we ditched that idea, and that's part of our purposes. We have all sorts of ideas, as I'm sure any of you who make art yourself know. You've got all these ideas, and then when you actually go to make the piece, you kind of put too much stuff into one idea, you know. So you have to kind of cull your ideas, hone them. So the next video is prepping the apples for the solder elements, and that's, I'm pretty sure, the next video. That's what we're doing. So like I said, these wires get clipped. Jennifer's clipping them all, and then she's going to grind the little nubs off, and she's using the white silicone to grind those off. It's extremely aggressive, and then she's going in with the black and then the blue to clean that up. And when you're done, nobody's going to see those. they're going to get soldered from behind and be behind the bronze apples anyways. But it's just nice to make sure they're all cleaned up really well so they're nice and flat when they solder onto the apple. So that's getting it ready. And now, and the little wires are going to be used for riveting and for tangling in the wool. So there we go. Here we go. So we start by dripping, melting solder. It's called, what is it called, Jennifer, when you do that? We fluxed it and then we solder on it. Oh God, I know.
Sweat soldering?
Sweat soldering. So we solder onto the bronze, and then we, as you can see, we just get lots of solder on, because it's none of this is going to get seen. It's all going to be attached to the sculpture. So we melt that solder on there. And sometimes then I just flip it and solder the elements I want onto it, but other times I might pickle it and clean it up first before I resolder then with the added elements. But because it's these flat pieces, these big flat pieces with these tiny little elements, I also just wanted to show you what I did there. I used a piece of wire and just put it on there and heated it, and it just melted down and gave lots of solder on that. So then the next is locating the apple frame to the skull and hanging legs. I guess I didn't show the soldering of those little parts onto it.
Yep.
So I'll have to do that another time for you. Sometimes we lose our videos, or we film and then we find out the camera wasn't on. Here we are. They're all soldered on now and then cut around. It's funny. I know I saw a video of me cutting those, but I guess I must have misplaced it. At this point, I have thousands of videos. But this is the center apple, and I wasn't able to locate before I soldered. So now I have to locate afterwards, which is always a problem. It's always best if you can drill through the bone and the piece of silver at the same time. But because you never know when you're sweat soldering if your little piece is going to move a bit, I had to wait till after I soldered to find, and then because I'm dyslexic, I always quite often make a mistake there. Again, it's okay. It's bone. It's hard. It's extremely hard, and the frame covers a myriad of sins. There you go. So, and now I'm getting the legs ready. I just couldn't believe it. I was looking through my bones and skulls one day, and I saw these little jaws, these deer jaws, and I went, oh my God, those would make amazing legs for this runner. This Atalanta was the fastest runner of all. She consented to marry only if the man could beat her at a race, and any man who lost the race would be executed. So that's why the young man who ended up marrying her, went to Athena and asked for help to beat her at her race. And that's how the golden apples come in. Every time she almost passed him, he threw her another golden apple, and she'd stop and pick it up, and then she lost. But you see how I just kind of made these very loose rivets by spiraling the metal, and now those little legs can move. And that was, I don't know why, that was important to me, that the little legs could run, could move, and they're just like the daintiest little feet, just adorable. and I had the wires coming right up the back of the piece, and then the head, I'm making the frame for the head now, and all those wires will be twisted together. So there's so many different ways to do this. I just do it the way I do it. I have recently used some chicken wire, but in the end, I prefer just using the wire and filling it up with wool. I, I can't use foam because then it's not, it won't last. The foam will eventually disintegrate over the next 50 years, and then the piece, it's not right. It's not right for my work. I like to make work that will last for hundreds of years. So the materials I use have to be able to be used for hundreds of years. I don't mind if it, like this galvanized steel, maybe in 1,000 years will rust and it'll discolor the wool. I don't mind that. That's okay. That's part of the piece of the piece I made. That's okay. And even the bronze will discolor and make marks, and it'll add to the piece. But I don't want to use plastic or foam or something that off gases and disintegrates over in a very, like 100 years. It's just not long enough. When you put this kind of work into a piece, you want it to last. And I'm so inspired by Neolithic and artifacts. So I've always, in my practice, I've always thought, how can I make this last 60,000 years? You know, so, okay, that's just me. So now we're going to go to number 5, shaping the apples and the soldering of the big apple. Yeah, that's number 5. So here we are. This is interesting. So I'm shaping the apple in my lovely bowl that I have made years ago for my church project. And that worked like a hot damn. Works like a great on this big apple, which has no wires sticking out of it, so I don't have to be careful with it. And it just shapes it so beautifully. Gives it that nice concave shape, which actually strengthens the metal too, makes it way harder, thus the dome. But now, how am I going to get in there? Oh, no, I cannot get in there. So I go, oh, what am I going to use? Look, I get an old screwdriver with a domed plastic head, and that's what I use to dome the eye. And it works like a hot damn. And then, of course, the little eye that goes on top of it. There you go. So there's always something in the house or in the studio or in the garage that'll work. So you just have to keep playing with your tools till you get it to work. And now I'm riveting getting the eye ready to rivet. Again, I couldn't locate before I soldered the eye, so it's a little guessing by golly. It all worked out. Now here I am cutting a hole in the eye because we're going to be putting fur inside there. So now I've got the big apple. It's domed now. I had to wait for it to get domed before I could solder. And I'm just soldering a great mash of silver wire on there. And however it goes, and this is to attach the wool to. So it's just however it worked out. It's only the front of it that you're going to see. And so I clean it all up. You've seen me do that before. Bristle brush. I started with the white bristle brush, and it wasn't aggressive enough to get inside those little words that we wrote all over the apples, which I kept a copy of those words so I could tell you what we wrote. I kept a copy here at my bench. Aww. we wrote hag, we wrote fleet of foot, we wrote whore, we wrote bitch goddess,
Hag Huntress.
hag huntress.
It's hard to read.
Yeah. Oh, I had them there for weeks and now I can't find them. Maybe it's on my band. Or are they on the inside of this maybe? No. Oh well. I know I've got them somewhere. And, but we just, this was a warrior hero, a single female amongst hundreds of men who held her own. So she is quite the bitch goddess and quite the warrior. So, and runner and hunter. So she's something else. Okay, so we've got the pieces polished. All the apples are polished. All the apples and the eye's been riveted. And now we are going to make the ears. So that would be the next video. I originally saw these ears were supposed to be the frame for the cutouts in her torso. And they were going to be like claws, bear claws. But it didn't look right. This skull is so beautiful. It was really hard to do anything to it because it is so beautiful on its own. So I made the claws and then realized, wow, these would make fantastic ears for her. And so that's what I'm doing now, cutting, filing, and all that jazz. And then I realized, oh, you have to stamp them. And I don't do as an efficient job of stamping as Jennifer does, that's for sure. Here I'm cleaning them all up and you can see they're all cupped. And then I have to flatten them all. I don't think I show that, but they're all polished and ready to go. And then I flatten, get all those crazy words stamped into them. I'm not as... Plus, I have to constantly check because I often write the letter backwards or upside down because it's just because of my dyslexia. Doesn't matter how many times I do it in one day, I still have to constantly check. Okay, so the ears are stamped. Now they have to be reformed. Give them a cupping. It strengthens the metal and makes it a stronger form, but it also gives, it's a little more human or a little more organic, like the human form. So crazy ears. And I drilled them and I tube set them, which I don't think, again, I don't have that video. But then now all the elements are made. We've made the eyes, we've made the apples, we've got the ears going on. Now we have to make the hands and the arms and the face. So now the rest is mostly felting and then playing around with the elements. Some of them get changed as they go along. That's the process. So off we go to felting the hands. And Cindy Giesbeck Cindy Lee from Tangled Fibers, we interviewed her here one time. She made the hands for me. She asked me if there was anything she could do, and I said, well, why don't you make the hands? And she did a crackerjack job of them. She starts with the form. She's much more a fiber person than I am. She started with a form, and then she takes little piece of pre-felt and adds them to, and you see she pre-tangles her felt before she puts it on, and it makes the process go faster. But she starts with much smaller pieces than you see that I do. I grab a great big piece and just start poking, you know. Anyway, so this was a rope she made out of felt, and then she cuts it in half, and that's what makes the fingers. It's very clever and efficient. Of course, she spent about about an hour doing this demo, and we got what, 2 minutes of film out of it, because felting is a very repetitive process. So pieces that I make, I show a few minutes of, it might take me 100 hours to felt, or because I'm slow at it too. Yeah, it doesn't seem to. So there you go. She's got all those fingers, and then she just playing with it and making it beautiful. And you'll notice that there's wires coming out the bottom of the hands, the wrists, and that's so that I can attach it to the arms. So that's the next video, finishing felting. Oh, felting the apple, the arms, and the face. So there we have the apple, and you see me, I just bundle up a bunch of wool and start poking it around the wires, and I really try and get it underneath the wires and around them, and that's yeah. And that can get kind of dangerous sometimes, but it's okay. And now see me with these great big huge piece of roving, no screwing around. I've got a bunch of wire, a bronze wire that I wrapped around the arm for something for the felt to hang on to and tangle with, and then I just get in there and shape and felt and keep going. Then I realized my head is going to be too small for all my elements, so I'm adding more wire to it, because I realized she's going to have this big wide grin, and we need a big wide face. So I just start with, like I say, with these big chunks of roving, and get that wool all tangled in the wire, and that's how I start. And then I'll take this after I'm done here. I'm just gonna see all the wires sticking out of the eye. I've got my hand there, gets tangled into that wool. The big bone that I took out of the base of the skull is going to become an eye. Then I've got the pig's teeth that Jennifer gave me that I've got drilled and put wire in so I can embed it in the wool. And yeah, I just showed you this so you could see how I cut this bear's long-haired bear fur. You don't want to cut it with scissors. I cut it from behind and then tear it apart so I don't cut the hair. And make sure I've got that wired in nicely. And that's going to be the eye. But I end up changing that in the end, as you'll see. But I just kind of want to see how things are going to fit. And so this first, it's just kind of playing with the elements and seeing how they'll do. And I've got all these little skull bear claws that I've wired up, and then I want to say soldered in, but I felt them in. I ended up taking them apart and putting them all on one wire and tangling it up. And then because there was too many little elements, so I just wired them all, those claws together. And let's go to the final video. Yep, gilding. So here I've got the earrings, which I've lost. I have misplaced those earrings, but this I just paint the gilding, the 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 sizing. I put that on. You let it dry for an hour, and then you start putting the gold paper on. Kind of careful because otherwise the sizing starts sticking to you. If it's not a little bit sticky, it's not going to stick to the gold. So I'm just using metal leaf. It's not real gold leaf here. And basically I put it on and then I rub it off with a nice soft clean cloth. And the problem with gilding is when you first start gilding things like this, you can kind of go overboard. But what I found is if I did put too much on, I could take a toothbrush or a little wire brush and rub and scrape it off a little and knock it back. And I did that a lot. I brushed her teeth. I love her smile. So you see, I changed my design there. I put a little tooth in there and a lot less fur. It just was too much, especially with the bear claws coming up from the top there, and you can kind of see. And now this is the actual bear tooth that I took out of the back of the skull. One was broken, and I got that. I wired it, and then I just felted it in there, and it's dirty. And then I just, you see how I just put the bear fur just goes in there and just stays. It's amazing. I thought I would have to use a bunch of glue, but I didn't, because the bear fur just stays inside there, because the rawhide, the hide of the bear expands when it goes in and sticks in. I did a little bit of felting. Just,
it was a temporary manifestation of what's known in layman's terms as a white hole.
Oh my God. And here,
are you sure you want the
I
number?
felted the back.
How many? A little over
where the
15,000.
wires are, the head
None.
and her
Guys,
feet.
we're in the clear. Just because we're not in the official news doesn't mean we're in the clear.
Oh, all I'm saying is that it could be worse. Mika could have hung us out to dry, but they didn't. Why? Probably because they think that we got played just like they.
What do you want?
Oh, you are all so screwed.
And by screwed, you mean
Certain parties within the Nikkei Combine think you set them up.
we set them up?
Just
They came to us with that job, which is why I told you.
It's complicated.
Can you elaborate?
Well, it looks like we've been invited to dinner.
people to look at the back of the piece and be deceived. So I felt
What's happened? They came back. They bust the facility to test the perimeter defenses, but they're gone.
So, yeah. And then I something
to
see where I put
to watch, please.
hanger, and also
I knew you were a serious baby.
there was a lot of room there for her head because of the teeth of the jaw of the bear skull. So I really felt it and added more and made that deeper. And of course, I finished it with that. So there you go. Those were the steps, most of them. And this is the finished piece. And I'm just going to walk towards the camera here and show it to you. You can see I put a little tube rivet in her ear here. And I'm going to find those earrings. I made the earrings out of the pieces that I took out of her torso. They're beautiful. And I gilded them, and they're gorgeous, and I put them somewhere very safe. I do that. Just like my dad that way. Anyways, here's the back of her, all finished. Nice. You don't see the hangers, just a little thing now. The bear claws really came out cool. It looks like a different claw, like the back of her head almost looks like a paw or a hand, which I'm really happy with, and I love the way it looks from the front. I was really pleased with that. It was just, let's get these on there, and then I was really pleased with the way it all came. The little tooth in there, it wiggles, but that's okay. The little feet dance. I put gold around the back of the apple, and I also wired the foot to it. So I drilled and put a little wire in there, so it's all wired together. It's not coming off. I gilded the apple, the chest piece, the tooth, and all along here. And then I just popped in some bear fur here just as a little trim coming out the bottom of her skirt. I think it just was like one of those little things you do. Super fun. And her teeth, oh my God, what a grin. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for those pig's teeth. They
no
really,
worries.
I wanted her to be ferocious. I wanted her to be seen in all her ugly glory, because this was a woman who was not attracted to men, loved being out in the wilderness, loved being a huntress, loved to dance with the other women in Artemis's honor, and killed men, the centaurs who tried to rape her, and then was forced to marry. Again, this is a theme over and over in Greek myth and also in fairy tales. She's forced to marry, so then she does end up having to get married to the young man who tricks her in the race, but they make love once and then they're turned into lions. So she's a wild beast that's allowed to live free in nature. So in the end, I think she's the winner. So there you go. There's a lot to be learned from in our culture today from myth and fairy tales. And so since we were here last, we made Artemis. We also created a lot of other pieces for exhibition. And we've been working diligently on the 12 hunter, it's called the 12 huntsmen, but I've been calling it the 12 hunts women, and WO in brackets. And so we have been working on that piece, as well as the girl who became a boy. So I brought just a few elements of each of those stories. I've had some really, and this happens quite often, while I was working on the fairy tale of the 12 huntswomen, I came to some interesting insights. I actually had to stop working on it for a while because I got bogged down. And whenever that happens, when I'm working on a sculpture, I know there's something more I need to learn. And it just hit me one day. Can we go to the camera 2? And so these are the little elements I made out of bone and African blackwood. And so I've got 12 of these made, and we're going to make the little heads either bone or blackwood. I've got those made. So in the story of the 12 huntswomen, there's a young man who I realized, just recently, just a few months ago, that young man was gay. He was attracted to men. But because he was a prince, he had to find a wife. So who was he attracted to? To the young woman who acted like a man. And so she didn't want to get married neither. But when she met him, they had a great time. They became very good friends and decided they would get married. And they said they fell in love. But really, I think they got married because they knew each other well enough to know what was going on. And so he gets called back to his kingdom because his father is dying, and his father wants him to marry the girly girl next door. And because it's his father's death wish, he says yes. So he ghosts her. He ghosts the original girlfriend. And she's very sad because it was kind of an answer to her prayers too, this guy. So then she says to her dad's going to get all up in his face about it. She says, no, find me 11 maidens who look just like me, who act just like me, right? So he finds 11 young women who are very male and who act very masculine. and they all traipse off to the kingdom as beautiful young men, and pretend to be young men and get a job as the 12 hunters for the king. So, of course, he just loves those hunters because they all are these beautiful young men. And but he has a beast who lives in his throne realm who advised his father and now is his main advisor. And in fairy tales and folklore and myth, whenever there's a beast who's telling you what to do, if it's a little dog or a little cat, it's domestic. It's a domestic kind of, or it's more instinctual. It's like our subconscious or our instincts saying, beware, beware, or you should do this, you should do that. But when it's a beast, we're getting down to more primal levels here. We're getting down to what I believe in this story are a lot of raging hormones flying every which way. And the beast represents that part of him that's trying to tell him what he should do. And the beast says, those are not men, those are women. So they do the tests where they throw peas on the ground, and the girls, if they're women, they'll be careful and they won't crush them. But of course, these young women are now men and who are crunching those peas no problem. And the other test is putting spinning wheels in the throne room and then calling them in for a meeting of some sort. And if they're women, they'll be really fascinated by the spinning wheels. But of course, they don't show the spinning wheels any mind at all. So the prince says, they're men, they're men. And the beast goes, oh, I don't know what's going on. Of course, you remember what it was like in puberty. We didn't know what was up and what was down. And so eventually everything comes to light. I think Shakespeare did a play like this based on this story. And everything comes to light and he realizes, no, I have to marry this woman. I can't marry the girl. So it all works out. But it really is interesting to me how this very ancient fairy tale is again helping us understand what it's like to be other than a heterosexual in a society that has been for so long focused only on that, and anything other was dismissed and not seen. So it was really interesting to me to understand that the young man was gay. And that made I couldn't understand that story. Even after I started it, it didn't make sense to me. It was very convoluted and confusing to me. But as soon as I understood that the young man was gay, it made total sense. So there you go. So there we have a marriage of convenience, and they're good friends. And, a king's got to do what a king's got to do, and the same with the princess. So here's my little huntsman, and we've got a whole bunch of them in a box here. As you can see on these ones, they are, we cut them out and then we cut them in half and then we glued them together, and now I will make that. You can see they're not the same thickness. Very hard to get bone a consistent thickness, but I just grind them all the same thickness, and they're going to be great. And I've got all these little heads for them. I'll redo their heads and I'll shape them all super fun. They're going to be really perky. I think they're going to be, some of them are going to be earrings. And then I got all these weird steampunk wheels on eBay, and I will be attaching those to the tower. The tower and the beast are coming. It's about 1 meter high, the sculpture. I didn't bring it in today because it's just kind of, it's in progress. It's amazing. While I was working on this piece, this is the first piece I'm using pre-felt with, and I'm using chicken wire to try and bulk things up quicker, because this was one thing I did not understand when I started the grant project, because I had made a few pieces already, quite a few pieces. I didn't really take into consideration how long it takes to felt when you're really trying to make an exhibition piece. And I don't know why I didn't think of that. It really takes a long time. Anybody who felts knows that when you're needle felting. So anyways, it's been a lot of fun, and I will continue doing this work. I'm not afraid of something taking time. So I've got little hearts made for them. I've got little eyes made for them. They're going to be darn cute, and they're going to be little earrings. And I'm making this enormous sculpture that's just so much fun. I'm having so much fun. So that's that. And in the meantime, I started working with the girl who would become a boy. And I think we'll tell that story next week. But I think you can kind of figure out what that one's about. And we have been having so much fun with that because when I think of transformation and I put that word, I Googled that word, what does it mean? The first image that comes up, the first word that comes up is chrysalis and butterflies, symbols for transformation. So of course we're working with that, and there's another story behind that for me personally as well. So I want to thank you all for coming. You're welcome to, I don't know if anybody joined us today or made any comments. That's okay. I ditched everyone for about 6 months, and
No comments.
that's okay. So I guess I should say press like and join and subscribe. We've got two more live streams after, or three. We've got the 12 Huntsmen, the girl who became a boy, and the she bear, which again is actually coming along in my head, and I've got something figured out how to make her. I left her to last because I was really struggling with her. She's a handless maiden tale, a story of sexual child abuse. So it's always difficult. How do you portray that without slamming it in people's faces? So, but I've got some good ideas, and I've got the most beautiful, another bear skull to use, so I'm excited about that. And this will be another 3-dimensional piece. So I'm excited, always excited to be in my studio. So thank you again for coming. I want to thank Kada. I want to thank Jennifer. I want to say thank you to Stephanie and Brianne for all the work they've helped me with on these projects. And my studio mate, Cindy Lee, Cherry Deacon. And I would like to still say thank you, Rom, for all your help getting started. The camera store is a great resource. And C-Space and all the tenants here are just so lovely. I'm so grateful to be here. And always, I want to say a big thank you to Herb, who makes all my dreams come true. So signing off, Shona Ray. We'll be back I'm hoping around the 8th or 9th of February to show you the 12 Hunters, because then he's going down to Edmonton on the weekend for an exhibition, and along with Atalanta and the Red Shoes and Baba Yaga and about 15 other pieces. So thank you, and thanks for everyone who came to the exhibition. I really appreciated that. Okay, signing off. Happy New Year.